Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out 2-sentence horror. Story 1. As a resident of a small beach town, I'm not sure what was worse. The retreated tide, or the corpses it unveiled. Story 2. My overweight dog and I are finally losing weight. He's starting to trip a lot on walks, but I'm sure he'll get used to our 3 days, 1 meal diet. Story 3. Me and my brother never got on well. I feel that God making us Siamese twins was a sick joke. Story 4. DEC23, what's the mortality rate on this strain? Like 45–50%. Double. Story 5. DEC23, the doctor confirmed the average length of pregnancy was 40 weeks. His face paled when I told him I'd been pregnant for double that time. Story 6. I always thought my girlfriend was just kidding about not eating all the cookies I would leave on the counter. That was until she went missing last week and they're still being eaten. Story 7. She left me a note that said, "I'm sorry but you're too overweight." She was gone, and so was the thin rope and supplies we scraped together over weeks stuck in this horrid cave system. Story 8. My new patient seemed very attentive but something felt off. That's when it dawned on me, he hadn't blinked once during our session. Story 9. There's no such thing as brushes with death. Your consciousness just continues going as if it never happened. Story 10. The witch cursed me with perfect immortality and irresistible suicidal urges. Story 11. The men in suits dragged me away while I begged them to let me go. My parents love me, I'm sure of it. They didn't really mean to leave those marks on me. Story 12. It's always relaxing to sit and have a drink in front of a nice and cozy fire. It's so cozy, even the screams of the people inside aren't deterring my relaxation. Story 13. My heart racing, and with no other options I quickly activate my time machine right as my would-be assassin fires his gun. My heart racing, and with no other options, I quickly activate my time machine right as my would-be assassin fires his gun. Story 14. I told my husband that our son finally seemed happy to be going to school this morning. He then quietly replied, "My gun is missing." Story 15. I thought I was being nice letting the other car their lights weren't on. It's been 20 minutes since they turned around and started following me. Story 16. He said he didn't want children, but she was so worried that he would leave that she stopped taking birth control. It was only when his offspring clawed free of her womb and began to devour her that she realized he had loved her all along. Story 17. I was surprised to find out the reason our commander called us into his room was to inform us that a vampire had infiltrated our ranks. I've always liked our commander, it's a shame I have to suck out his blood once I get the chance. Story 18. The aliens chose a champion from each land-dwelling species on Earth to fight to the death in tournament combat, with the species of the final winner allowed to live. As the human selectee, I'm up against a hippo in round 1 and I have no idea what I'm going to do. Story 19. As the train barreled towards the tied-up victims, you flipped the switch, dooming one person to save 5. When you went to untie the 5 survivors, you realized with horror that they were all already dead. Story 20. Every day is my birthday. Each time I wake up, another year has passed. Story 21. I was walking down the street. Story 22. When my best friend told me not to come to school the next day, I immediately called everyone who should know. Now, I'm lying on the floor with others, wondering how my friend had known that the football team was going to go on an end-of-season slaughter because of their one loss. Story 23. The girl walked in the attic and got something tangled around her throat that was hanging from the rafters. Just then the rotten floorboards gave way from under her. Story 24. I was happy to see the authorities at my door finally taking my claim of business malpractice seriously. 6 fucking months without my 23andMe result. Sir, we need to talk to your father about a series of killings in the California area. Story 25. My so is mad at me because I changed our newborn baby. She doesn't understand that this one is much prettier. Story 26. The old farmer managed to get his ridgy old body off the ground. As he stared with content at the scarecrow he made, calling it a day, he decided to head back to his old wooden shack. In the morning, the drowsy old farmer decided to see if the scarecrow was still in one piece. He quickly snapped out of his drowsiness as his foot kicked the deformed body of a crow. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 27. That's the third one this week, said the constable as two of his village guards manhandled me toward the chopping block. As I was pushed to my knees, I saw that each of the heads stuck on spikes around the perimeter wall had my face. Story 28. They can smell humans, especially their fear. So why haven't they killed me yet? Story 29. A stranger walked around my house looking at my items with curiosity and wonder. It was humanoid, not human. Story 30. DEC-23 doubled over and clutching my chest in pain I called for an ambulance. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was speeding past the hospital towards the Purina plant just outside of town. Story 31. When the idea of concentrating all the pain of the world onto a small group of individuals was debated, I was a passionate supporter of the yes side. Now, I understand that I should have taken a closer look at how the victims were chosen. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 32. As you fall, there's one last thought. No one will believe I tripped. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 33. You said I could have my kids back in a bit, she snarled. No, I corrected, slicing into my own portion of steak, I said in bits. Story 34. The hooded necromancers gathered outside my house setting holy symbols on fire. They were creating an army of the undead with their repeated chants of white power. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 35. We were afraid when the American bombers were flying right above us. Luckily, it seemed that instead of dropping bombs, it only dropped some orange liquid. Story 36. Driving home after another long day at the office. As I attempt to brake, I notice my leg isn't responding, nor are my arms. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 37. As the sun set, I looked out of my window and smiled happily. Getting ready to go to bed, I turned off the lights and got into my bed sheets. That smile quickly dissolved when I realized I do not have a home, and the bed pulsed with a warmth that breathed in a rhythm distinctly inhuman. Story 38. In grade school, my friends used to tease that I would die alone since I was more interested in books than in boys. Now, as I look out the window of the ISS and see the giant plume of smoke rising from the Earth after the first meteor struck, I realize they weren't far off. Story 39. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? I yelled at the figure in the mirror, a deathly smile following the crack. You shall see, you shall see, you shall see, whispered the figure in the mirror, as I could not stop giving a deathly smile back. Story 40. I clutch my fat and clearly bulging stomach as it aches horribly, leaving me unable to even get up. Eating one meal today was one meal too many. Story 41. Big Feet is real. I saw his footprints next to my friend's sodomized corpse. Story 42. I have some time as 20230923 was the number on my forehead. I thought that 20,230,922 people would die first before my turn, but I never considered the international date format. Story 43. When I found the file labeled plot on my desk, I decided to peek. Protagonist will read a folder on the desk labeled plot shortly before they get the news. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 44. DEC23 I felt tears running down my face as my friends were accusing me of relapsing at the party last night. I have no idea how to explain to them that my double vision isn't from being drunk, especially when I have yet to tell them about my diagnosis. Story 45. It is the dream of many little girls to marry their own dad. Story 46. After a giant earthworm emerged from the ground in the middle of the city, the government used every weapon they had, but only a nuke managed to destroy it. The victory was short-lived as the giant earthworm turned out to be a tail. Story 47. I have spent the last 5 years of my coma trying to figure out how to tell people that I'm actually awake. But today when I heard the doctors talking about me in my room, I realized they already knew. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 48. No mom, I haven't been sending you messages from a new number, that's just a scammer. Stop joking, I think I'd recognize my daughter's voice. Story 49. I open another treat from my advent calendar and notice this one is smaller than most. Oh well, I think to myself, such is the life of a coroner. Story 50. My husband left me and our child for another woman for her hand in marriage. I arrived at their wedding with our child head in hand. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 51. The schoolgirl ran up to me and cried, "This isn't you." She was right, I was wearing someone else's flesh. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 52. Spiders of a deadly sort crawled across my nose and mouth, creeping slowly into my orifices. I clawed at my face in desperation, but my CPAP mask was firmly affixed and the thrashing did little more than agitate them as they ventured deeper toward my sinuses. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 53. Congratulations, healthy child, 10 fingers 10 toes, the midwife said, handing me my child. I screamed in horror when I had seen 10 fingers and 10 toes attached to a baby's head. Story 54. I used to get very annoyed at my constant nosebleeds until I started my new job. Now I can't really tell if the blood on my face is mine or not. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 55. I'm scared. The speaker was a monster, making you wonder what sort of dreadful machination of hell could make tremble even he? That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.